What if I told you that Olla irrigation, a 4,000-year-old watering technology, could completely replace your watering schedule? I buried these ancient unglazed clay vessels called ollas in 5 different containers for 1 month, and the root growth inside is terrifyingly aggressive. We're talking a dense mat of roots clinging to the outside of each pot, reaching toward their water source, like something out of a nature documentary. This is the story of Olla irrigation, a technology so old it predates the Roman Empire, so effective it saves up to 90% of water compared to surface watering, and so overlooked that almost nobody in the container gardening world is talking about it. By the end of this video, you'll understand the science, the history, and exactly how to set one up on your balcony for less than $4. Before we get started, I have a quick question for you. Have you ever tried a self-watering system in your garden, or is this your first time hearing about ollas? Let me know in the comments below. I read every one of them, and I'd love to hear about your gardening experience. Now, let's start with what an olla actually is, because the word itself throws people off. Olla, pronounced olla, is simply the Spanish word for pot. In a gardening context, it refers to any unglazed clay vessel that you bury in soil and fill with water. That's it. No pumps, no timers, no electricity, no batteries, just clay and water. The magic is in the material itself. Unglazed terracotta is porous, and when you fill an olla with water and bury it in soil, moisture slowly seeps through the walls, through the porous media of the clay itself, and into the surrounding earth. The plants nearby send their roots toward that moisture, and over time, those roots wrap themselves around the olla like a glove, pulling water exactly when they need it. And here's what makes this genuinely remarkable. The system is self-regulating. The physics involve 2 interconnected principles: capillary action, the tendency of water to move through tiny pore spaces in materials, and something called soil moisture tension, where water naturally moves from areas of high concentration to areas of low concentration. When the soil around the olla is dry, moisture seeps out faster. When it rains and the soil is already saturated, the water inside the olla stays put. Because the clay is porous in both directions, excess rainwater can actually seep back in, essentially recharging the pot. The plants are never overwatered and never underwatered. The clay just responds to the environment in real time, no software required. Formally, this is classified as subsurface irrigation, delivering water directly to the root zone below the soil surface, and it's one of the most efficient delivery methods ever developed. Now, how old is this idea? Try 4,000 years. The earliest evidence of buried clay pot irrigation comes from ancient China and North Africa, with traces of the technique found throughout Mesopotamia, one of the cradles of civilization. But the most concrete historical record comes from a man named Fan Shengji, an agricultural official during the Han Dynasty in the 1st century BC. Emperor Chengdi, who ruled from 33 to 7 BC, sent Fan Shengji to a region called Sanfu with a specific mission: help resource-limited farmers produce more food. Fan Shengji developed and documented a series of innovations, including crop rotation, organic seed treatment methods, and clay pot irrigation. His work was compiled into a text called the Fan Sheng Qi Shu, widely considered the world's first agricultural science textbook. 2,000 years ago, this man wrote down instructions for the exact same technique we're going to build today. China wasn't the only civilization to figure this out. On the other side of the planet, the Hohokam people thrived in what is now central and southern Arizona from roughly 200 to 1400 AD, with some evidence suggesting they may have been present as early as 2000 BC. The Hohokam built irrigation networks that rivaled the complexity of ancient Egypt and China, an unsurpassed engineering feat in pre-Columbian North America. They weren't just surviving in the desert, they were farming it. Similar subsurface irrigation principles were part of their toolkit, and indigenous peoples throughout the Americas adopted comparable techniques, all independently arriving at the same elegant solution to the same brutal problem. How do you grow food when water is scarce? So why did this technology disappear? It didn't exactly disappear. It just got overshadowed. Modern drip irrigation was invented in 1959 at an Israeli kibbutz, and the industrial agriculture world never looked back. Drip systems scale beautifully for commercial farming, but ollas don't. You can't bury enough clay pots to irrigate a 1,000-acre wheat field. But here's the thing. Most of us aren't farming 1,000 acres. We're growing tomatoes on a balcony, tending herbs in a courtyard, trying to keep a raised bed alive through August while working a full-time job. And for those applications, ollas aren't just competitive with modern irrigation, they're arguably better. Let's talk numbers, because the efficiency data is genuinely startling. According to the Farmer's Almanac, olla irrigation saves between 50% and 70% of water compared to conventional watering methods. Brian Clayton, CEO of the gardening platform GreenPal, puts the figure at up to 70%. Some research goes even further, showing that subsurface watering from ollas is 10 times more efficient than conventional surface irrigation, with certain comparisons cutting water use by 90%. The most dramatic data comes from a 2013 study conducted in Kenya, which compared olla irrigation to furrow irrigation, the kind where you dig channels between rows and flood them. For maize, the olla system saved 97.1% of applied water. For tomatoes, 97.8%. And those weren't water savings at the expense of yield. The increase in yield per unit of water jumped 32.2% for maize and 43.7% for tomatoes. You use a fraction of the water and get more food per drop. In India, researchers found that olla-irrigated melon produced 25 tons per hectare using only 2 centimeters of irrigation water, compared to 33 tons per hectare using 26 centimeters with flood irrigation. Yes, the flood system produced slightly more total yield, but it used 13 times as much water to do it. Closer to home, the nonprofit Ecology Action tested 5 5-gallon ollas in a 100-square-foot garden plot and found that each olla seeped 1.25 gallons of water into the soil every 4 days. Steady, consistent, automatic moisture delivery, and depending on conditions, you only need to refill an olla once every 1 to 2 weeks. In extreme desert heat, maybe every 3 to 4 days. Now let's talk about why this matters specifically for container gardening, because this is where ollas solve problems that most gardeners don't even realize they have. Container gardens are hard. They seem simple enough. Pot, soil, plant, water, but containers create a uniquely stressful environment for plants. The soil heats up faster than ground soil, dries out faster, and water drains straight through and out the bottom, washing nutrients and fertilizer with it. You end up in this cycle of feast and famine, where the soil swings between soaking wet right after you water and bone dry 6 hours later on a hot day. Plants hate that. It stresses them, stunts their growth, and creates specific problems like blossom end rot in tomatoes, which most people blame on calcium deficiency, but is actually caused by inconsistent moisture, preventing the plant from absorbing calcium steadily. An olla eliminates all of this. For any container under 24 inches, A single olla placed in the center keeps the entire pot evenly moist. No overwatering, no underwatering, no water spilling over the sides onto your balcony floor, no nutrient-rich soil washing out the drainage holes. The water goes directly to the root zone and stays there. Plants that normally struggle in containers often perform dramatically better with an olla because it removes the moisture stress that container growing inherently creates. And here's a bonus that doesn't get nearly enough attention. Because ollas deliver water underground as true subsurface irrigation, the surface of the soil stays relatively dry. Most weed seeds need surface moisture to germinate, so weed growth around olla-irrigated plants drops substantially. Less weeding and less watering. That's a pretty good deal. This principle also connects to a broader approach called xeriscaping, designing your garden to minimize water use through smart plant selection and efficient irrigation. Ollas are one of the most powerful tools in a xeriscape toolkit, particularly for anyone gardening in a drought-prone climate or trying to cut their water bill on a balcony or rooftop. There's another container gardening problem that ollas solve beautifully, and it's one every urban gardener knows intimately: vacations. When you go away for 1 week in July, your balcony containers are basically on death row. You either beg a neighbor to water them, rig up some improvised drip system, or accept that your basil is going to be a crispy memory when you get back. With ollas in your containers, you fill them up before you leave, and your plants can coast for 1 to 2 weeks without any intervention. Josh McWilliams, co-founder of the Olla company Grow Olla, put it well. I wasn't looking for a solution for my 30-acre field. I was looking to support gardening as part of a busy lifestyle. His company has sold hundreds of thousands of ollas since launching, and the testimonials are telling. One customer dealing with record-breaking Southwest desert heat wrote that absolutely nothing affected the plants and credited the ollas entirely. So let's build one. While you can buy commercial ollas, and companies like Grow Olla and Thirsty Earth make excellent products, you can also make a perfectly functional olla for about $4 using materials from any hardware store. Here's what you need: 2 unglazed terracotta pots, the standard reddish-orange ones you see everywhere. They must be unglazed. This is critical. If they're glazed, painted, or sealed, water can't pass through the walls and the whole system doesn't work. Plastic obviously won't work either. You also need food-grade silicone sealant and something to plug the drainage holes: a coin like a penny, a flat stone, or a small piece of tile. Take the first pot and seal its drainage hole by gluing a penny or flat stone over it with waterproof exterior-grade adhesive or silicone. Then apply a generous bead of silicone around the rim of one pot and press the second pot's rim against it, creating a sealed vessel shaped roughly like a sphere or a large egg. Let the silicone cure fully, and that's your olla. To install it in a container, dig a hole in your potting soil deep enough that the olla sits with about 1 to 2 inches sticking above the surface. This matters because you want the opening above ground so you can refill it, and so soil doesn't wash inside. Place it in the center of your container. For the most even moisture distribution, fill it with water through the top opening and cover the opening with a terracotta saucer, a flat stone, or a small plate to prevent mosquitoes from breeding inside and to reduce evaporation. Then plant around it. For sizing, a small 1-quart olla waters plants within about a 1-foot diameter. A 3-quart olla covers a 1.5-foot radius. A large 7-quart olla reaches plants in a 2-foot radius. For most balcony containers, a small to medium olla is perfect. If you're working with a raised bed, space ollas every 2 to 3 feet for full coverage. Raised bed gardening is actually one of the best applications for ollas, because you control the soil mix completely. You can optimize for the loamy, well-structured medium that lets capillary action and moisture tension work at their best. One important note: never add liquid fertilizer inside your olla. It will clog the terracotta's pores and destroy the porosity that makes the whole system work. Fertilize the soil directly instead. As for what to plant around your ollas, vegetables with fibrous root systems are ideal. Tomatoes, squash, cucumbers, melons, chiles. These are plants that love consistent moisture and will aggressively wrap their roots around the olla to take full advantage. Ollas work for flowers and herbs too, and they're suitable for most plants you'd grow in a garden or on a balcony. The main exceptions are large, deep-rooted plants or trees that need more extensive irrigation than a single olla can provide. A few practical things to keep in mind. If you live somewhere with freezing winters, pull your ollas out of the soil in fall and store them indoors, because terracotta will crack if water inside it freezes and expands. In sandy soils, ollas drain faster and may need more frequent refilling, so they work best in loamy or clay-heavy mixes. And yes, ollas are fragile. They're clay pots. Handle them with reasonable care. For those who want to go further, companies like Thirsty Earth have developed connected olla systems, where multiple buried clay cylinders are linked by underground irrigation tubing, all feeding from a single reservoir. Fill one container and the whole bed stays topped up automatically. For a 4x8 raised bed, that's 9 clay cylinders working in parallel from one bucket. It's ancient technology meeting modern engineering, and it's genuinely brilliant. Here's what I find most compelling about all of this. We live in an era of smart home gadgets, app-controlled irrigation systems, and sensor-driven everything, and yet a 4,000-year-old piece of unglazed pottery outperforms most of it for small-scale growing. It uses no energy, creates no waste, responds to plant needs in real time through basic physics, capillary action and moisture tension doing silently what no sensor array can replicate. And it even works with saline water, something conventional irrigation can't handle. Researchers in India achieved tomato yields of 27 tons per hectare using saline water that would have killed crops under normal irrigation. As climate change intensifies, as water becomes more precious, as more people move into cities and try to grow food on balconies and rooftops, this isn't just a quirky gardening hack. It's a genuinely important piece of appropriate technology that deserves a place in the modern toolkit, right alongside drip irrigation, rainwater harvesting, and xeriscaping as foundational water-wise strategies. Fan Shengzi figured this out 2,000 years ago for farmers who had too little water and too little time. It turns out we have the exact same problem, and the solution is still a clay pot, some water, and the patience to let physics do the work. Now I'd love to hear from you. After watching this video, do you think you'll try making your own DIY olla? Or would you rather buy a ready-made one? Let me know in the comments. And if you've already used ollas before, share your experience so other gardeners can learn from it. If you found this video helpful and want more practical gardening tips that actually work, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to Plant Care Secrets TV, and become a channel member to support the channel and get access to exclusive gardening content and member-only perks. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy gardening!